spectrum frontiers. Riding hard, standing tall. From the heart of the people to the rise and the fall. Full spectrum frontiers. Where the stories ignite. Guarding tomorrow with grit in the fight.
What's up, friends? Bennett here. This is Full Spectrum Frontiers, where we talk about the stuff that actually shapes the world you and I have to live in. Power perception, preparedness. Today's episode starts a few 100 million miles away and lands right in your gut. Because once again, something from outside our solar system has wandered into our neighborhood, and this one isn't playing by the usual rules. Meet 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar visitor after Umamamu and 2I Borisov. Excuse me. It was first spotted on July 1, 2025 by the Atlas Telescope System in Chile, funded by NASA. The same sky watchers who scan for anything that might ruin our day. The trajectory, hyperbolic, meaning this thing's a traveler, not a local, just passing through on a path that proves it came from beyond our sun's family. NASA and major outlets reported it poses no impact threat to Earth as it arcs in and out, but it has everyone's attention for other reasons. Here's the curveball. Early data from the James Webb Space Telescope shows a coma, usually rich in carbon dioxide, way richer than we typically see in homegrown comets, plus signatures of water, carbon monoxide, and dust, and even hints of water ice in the mix. That chemistry suggests 3I Atlas formed under different conditions than most comets we've studied here, possibly closer to a CO2 ice line in its birth system. Translation, it's not just from out of town. They grew up in a neighborhood with different rules. And then there's the discourse, the fun part and the messy part. You've probably seen the headlines, usual tail behavior debates about non-gravitational acceleration, even public speculation about artificial origin. Some of those arguments are coming from high-profile voices like Avi Loeb, who's been very public about treating the close pass by the sun as an acid test for whether this is a fragile natural object or something else. This conversation is evolving in real time, and the claims are, let's say, spirited. Regardless of where you land, it's a classic case study of uncertainty colliding with the modern media machine. So, why bring an interstellar comet onto a national security show? Because signals, not just stories, objects like 3I Atlas stress test our planetary defense posture, our sensor networks, our decision-making under ambiguity, and our cultural reflexes when the unknown shows up. NASA's already using this as a global observation campaign, tightening coordination pipes and sharpening techniques we'd need if one day an object's trajectory mattered a lot more than its chemistry. It's a live fire drill for how we collect, fuse, and communicate data when the clock is ticking. NASA science. All right, here's how we'll run today's show. We're going to separate science, speculation, and signal. First, the science. What we actually know about 3I Atlas, its path, its composition, what the telescopes are telling us and what they saw and what those findings could mean. No hype, just the data and why it matters. Then we'll do some speculation, the best arguments from skeptics and believers on the anomaly stack, why some people say interesting comet and others say, hold up, that's weird. We'll keep it grounded and call out what's testable and what's not. Finally, the signal, the national security lens, what a visiting object teaches us about readiness, coordination between civil space and defense, and how we make decisions under uncertainty, which, let's be honest, is half of modern life. Tone-wise, we'll keep it straight talk with a little curiosity and a little humor. If Omamama, I can't even say it right, was that weird tourist who wouldn't take off its sunglasses indoors, 3i Atlas is the out-of-towner who shows up with a suitcase full of CO2 and refuses to answer simple questions. We don't panic. We do what grown-ups do. Observe, test, decide. Quick baseline, so we're all aligned. It's interstellar. That's confirmed by its hyperbolic orbit, not bound to the sun. Came from outside our solar system, and they're saying it's leaving again. It's not on a collision course with Earth. Distances remain comfortably large. This is a curiosity and a learning opportunity, not a doomsday rock. Its chemistry is unusual. CO2 dominant, coma with water and CO2 detected, likely formed in conditions different from typical solar system's comets. Debate is active. Some claim anomalies hint at non-natural behavior. Others see a rare but natural visitor. Evidence is being gathered now about perihelion and beyond. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning listener, you already know the drill. We don't outsource our thinking. We test assumptions. We map the terrain and we look for the moves that actually matter for families, businesses, and the country. Before we dive in, do me a solid. Tap follow, leave a quick review, and share this episode with one friend who loves space, strategy, or just a good mystery. It helps the show more than you can ever think. And it signals the algorithms that thoughtful content still has a place on the internet. All right, buckle up. Let's talk about the third visitor, what it is, what it isn't, and what it's trying to teach us about how we handle the unknown. Section 1, the science, what we actually do know and why it matters. All right, let's strip away the noise and start with the hard science. No TikTok hype, no rogue planet of doom headlines, just what we can actually measure and prove about 3i Atlas. 3i Atlas, formerly cataloged as C2025N1 Atlas, was discovered on July 1st, 2025 by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, or ATLAS, which runs automated sky surveys in Hawaii and in Chile. Its orbit turned out to be hyperbolic, meaning the curve never closes. It isn't looping around the sun like long-period comets, like Halley's Comet or something like that. It's flying through once and then it's gone. That alone marks it as interstellar, only the third time humanity has confirmed such a visitor after Umamamu. I don't know if I'm even saying that right, and 2i Borisov. So, what do the instruments actually tell us? The James Webb Telescope, the JS JWST trained its infrared spectrometers on the comet and picked up a clear CO2 dominant signature, far stronger than our typical solar system comets, okay, where water, ice usually drives the show. But the James Webb Telescope also picked up lines of HO2, CO, and OCS, carbonyl sulfide, and a dust continuum that suggests fine silicates and carbon compounds. The chemical fingerprint implies 3I Atlas formed in a region colder and farther from its parent star than most comets in our own Oort cloud. The ratio of CO2 to water may tell astronomers the temperature gradient of its birth system. In other words, we're getting a sample of someone else's planetary chemistry without leaving home. From a dynamic standpoint, its inbound velocity is roughly 26 kilometers per second relative to the sun, faster than any bound comet, but slower than an interstellar meteor. That's the sweet spot. That confirms it's a true wanderer, not a gravitational slingshot artifact. Its closest approach to Earth will be around 1.8 AU, about 270 million kilometers, safely distant. It will reach perihelion, closest point to the sun, that's what that means, near October 29th, 2025, so 2 days ago. So if anyone tells you impact incoming, feel free to just roll your damn eyes. Now, why does this matter beyond Space Geek trivia? Because every interstellar object we catalog rewrites our understanding of how common planetary systems really are and how material travels between them. The first visitor, Umamu, had no visible coma and behaved oddly. Borisov looked like a textbook comet. 3I Atlas lands somewhere in between. It's physically a comet, but chemically a rebel. That diversity tells us the galaxy is full of building blocks moving around, cross-pollinating star systems, and in the long run, this affects astrobiology, how life ingredients spread, and planetary defense, how often debris from other systems might wander close. NASA and ESA scientists are also using 3I Atlas as a training event. Think of it as a fire drill for interstellar tracking. Every new detection forces better algorithms, coordination between observatories, and rapid response protocols. If a truly hazardous object were ever detected inbound, these lessons in orbital refinement and cross-sector calibration could decide whether we get hit or we get lucky. Even the weird stuff like the tail orientation or the non-gravitational drift has perfectly respectable hypothesis. Comet tails can appear to point the wrong way due to solar wind interactions and viewing geometry. Asymmetric outgassing can nudge trajectories without needing alien thrusters. The data so far fits within the bounds of physics. That doesn't mean it's boring. It means nature still has tricks we're just beginning to quantify. So in simple terms, it's real, interstellar, and at this moment, non-threatening. Its composition makes it one of the strangest natural laboratories we've ever had. And it's already improving how humanity tracks unknown objects, sharpening a tool set that might one day protect us. If there's a bigger takeaway, it's this. Discovery isn't always about answers. Sometimes it's about recalibration. And 3I Atlas reminds us that space is busy. Our neighborhood isn't sealed off, and the unknown is often an opportunity disguised as confusion. Section 2, the signal or the static. Here's where things get weird, and honestly, a little revealing. Because the moment 3i Atlas entered the conversation, it wasn't just astronomers who got interested. It was the podcasters, the bloggers, the doom prophets, and every Reddit theorist with a telescope and a Twitter handle. Within weeks, the internet turned this comet into a cultural Rorschach test. Rorschach test. Let's start with what lit the match. Once the James Webb Telescope data came in showing that CO2 heavy composition and that slightly odd trajectory, a few astrophysicists, including Avi Loeb from Harvard, began asking if we should at least consider a non-natural origin. Not declare it, not sell tickets to the mothership, but just consider it. Loeb's logic was simple. If the acceleration of Oumuamua could be explained by sunlight pressure on an ultra-thin object, then any future interstellar visitor acting off nominal deserves a second look. And in the world of science, that's a fair question. Hypothesis, test, repeat. But here's the problem. Nuance doesn't trend. What started as a technical debate about reflectivity, coefficients, and outgassing patterns turned into Harvard scientist warns an alien craft approaching Earth. From there, it was a short hop to YouTube thumbnails of glowing triangles and captions screaming, "Take vacation before October 29th," which, by the way, came from a real tabloid headline quoting Loeb completely out of context. This is the digital age's equivalent of yelling fire in a crowded theater when someone just asked for the thermostat. And yet, we can't entirely blame the internet because at its core, that reaction says something honest about the human condition. We hate uncertainty. We're wired for cause and effect, for pattern recognition. When something refuses to fit, our brain will fill in the blanks. It's the reason ancient civilizations called comets omens, and the same reason we binge conspiracy content today. It's not just fear, it's curiosity colliding with powerlessness. So now, to be clear, there are anomalies worth watching. The nickel signatures detect in the tail surprised chemists. Nickel usually condenses in higher temperature regions. So, why is it in a cold-born object? The anti-tail geometry, that faint secondary stream pointing sunward, is visually odd, but can be explained by particle size distribution and solar radiation pressure. None of that screams alien engineering, but it does whisper, "You don't fully understand me yet, do you?" And that whisper is what fuels both the scientists and the storyteller. From a national security standpoint, there's another layer. The public's reaction to 3i Atlas is a live demo of information warfare by accident. No one had to push a disinformation campaign. We did it ourselves. One misinterpreted paper became dozens of viral posts. I mean, hundreds, really. Each a little more sensational than the last. And they keep getting crazier. Crazy is the wrong word. If we can spiral this hard over a frozen rock, imagine how we'd handle a genuine ambiguous event. Say an unknown aerial phenomenon over a populated area. The social media echo chamber is now a threat vector itself. But here's the bright side. This chaos also drives progress. Every single time speculation spikes, the demand for real data rises with it. James Webb Telescope follow-ups were funded faster because of public interest. Amateur astronomers from 40 countries joined coordinated observation networks. It's messy democracy in action. Science crowdsourced by people who somewhere between the memes, they actually care. That tension between panic and progress is the essence of what I call the frontier mindset. You can look at uncertainty and freeze, or you can treat it like a gym workout for civilization. Resistance builds strength. 3i Atlas isn't just a rock, it's a stress test for how humanity metabolizes the unknown. So, what do we do with that? First, we stay curious without surrendering to fantasy. Second, we hold media accountable. Demand context, not clickbait. And third, we remember that skepticism and wonder are not enemies, they're partners. The best explorers have always carried both in the same backpack. At the end of the day, maybe the question isn't whether 3i Atlas is natural or artificial. Maybe it's whether we're mature enough as a species to tell the difference without losing our minds in the process. Section 3, The Frontier Within. Let's bring this closer to home, because while 3i Atlas might be somewhere between Mars and the Sun right now, the real story isn't just in the sky, it's in how we respond down here on Earth. You see, every interstellar object is a mirror. It shows us where we're advanced and where we're still fumbling in the dark. And with 3i Atlas, that reflection cuts right into the heart of national security, human resilience, and how societies handle the unexpected. Let's start with the planetary defense angle, because it's quietly becoming one of the most important arms of global security you've probably never thought about. NASA's Planetary Defense Coordination Office and its counterparts around the world use these events like 3i Atlas as dry runs. Think of them as the NORAD of the cosmos. They're responsible for identifying potential impact threats, tracking them, and figuring out what happens if someday becomes today. When 3i Atlas appeared, the international coordination that kicked in was actually pretty impressive. Observatories across continents were exchanging real-time orbital data within hours. Algorithms were refined, telescopes calibrated, and early warning systems tested. All of this over an object that isn't even really a threat. Why? Because it's not really about this comet. It's about practicing agility. In a world where the first person to notice a strange sky event might not be scientists, but smartphone users, coordination and narrative control are everything. If you can't manage the story manages you. That's a lesson as relevant for a space object as it is for a cyber attack or an economic crisis. Let's be blunt. We don't handle ambiguity well. Whether it's a mystery light over Phoenix, or an unidentified blip over the Pacific, or a comet that doesn't act like one. Our first instinct is emotional, not analytical. That's freaking dangerous. In military strategy, this is the fog of war. In society, it's the fog of uncertainty. And if we can't cut through that fog quickly, we lose time, and time is the one resource you never get back. So now, 3i Atlas also highlights the fusion between science and defense. The same technologies used to track comets are the backbone of missile warning systems and satellite surveillance. The line between astronomy and early warning is getting blurrier by the day. In fact, some defense agencies are quietly leveraging these celestial events to improve orbital debris modeling, radar sensitivity, and AI-based threat classification. When you think about it, interstellar objects are just another version of what the military calls unidentified aerial phenomenon, except this time everyone agrees that it's real. But here's where I think it gets even deeper, beyond technology and geopolitics. When something like 3i Atlas streaks through our system, it challenges that quiet arrogance that humans have about being the center of everything. It reminds us that we're not the main character of the galaxy. And maybe that humanity is exactly what we need. That humility is exactly what we need. Because the greatest frontier isn't outer space, it's inner space. It's how we manage our fear, our curiosity, and our ability to adapt when reality refuses to play by the script. There's a concept I love called strategic wonder. It's the idea that awe, genuine, unfiltered awe, can sharpen our perception more than fear ever could. Fear narrows focus. Wonder widens it. When we see something like 3i Atlas, we have a choice. Panic or prepare. Speculate or study. You can dismiss this thing or you can discover. And whichever one we choose tells us everything about the civilization we're becoming. So here's the leadership takeaway. The next time something unknown enters our life, whether it's a crisis at work, a market shift, or a rock from another star system, don't default to chaos. Use it. Ask better questions. Build systems that can absorb surprises instead of collapse under it. Because the unknown isn't the enemy. Complacency is. 3i Atlas isn't warning us about aliens. It's warning us about ourselves, about how fragile our calm really is when the pattern breaks. And that's a lesson worth paying attention to. The visitor leaves, the lesson stays. So here we are. Another object from beyond our solar system is passing through, and once again, we're left with more questions than answers. But maybe that's the point. 3i Atlas will come and then it will go. Its tail will fade, its data will be archived, and the headlines will move on to the next shiny crisis. But what it leaves behind, that subtle unease, that spark of curiosity, that's the real payload. Because this isn't just a story about space. It's about how we deal with the unknown. We live in a world that wants certainty. We want to believe everything fits into a nice equation, a political narrative, or a 5-year plan. But reality doesn't care about your plans. It drops curveballs like 3i Atlas into our orbit to remind us that mystery is baked into the human experience. And maybe that's a good thing, because mystery keeps us humble. It keeps us innovating. It keeps us scanning the horizon instead of staring at our own reflection. From a national security lens, it's a wake-up call about agility. The need to communicate clearly, coordinate globally, and maintain credibility in an age of noise. From a human lens, it's an invitation to stay grounded in wonder and look up without losing your balance. If you take anything from this episode, let it be this. Uncertainty isn't weakness. It's the frontier we're meant to navigate. Whether that frontier is political, technological, or cosmic, the goal isn't to eliminate the unknown. It's to grow strong enough to face it. So yeah, Maybe the third interstellar visitor isn't a warning at all. Maybe it's a reminder, a quiet whisper from the stars saying, don't get too comfortable. If this episode got you thinking, even a little, do me a favor. Follow, share, and leave a review wherever you're listening. It helps the show reach more people who still care about thinking critically, staying curious, and building a resilient world in this chaotic one. Until next time, keep your eyes up, your mind open, and remember, this is Full Spectrum Frontiers, where the edge of the map is just the beginning.
Carry the fire through shadows and storm. Voices of yesterday guiding us on. Echoes of duty, the call we still hear. Building tomorrow with courage, not fear. Stand your ground, keep the watch through the night. Guarding tomorrow where freedom's a light. Through every trial, the truth will endure. Full spectrum frontiers, steady and sure. From fields of the past to horizons unknown, the seeds that we plant are the future we own. Stories of valor, of lessons we've learned, a legacy carried, a torch ever burned. Stand your